Let's turn now to Washington and Giorgio Cafiero, the CEO of Gulf State Analytics and an adjunct assistant professor at Georgetown University. Professor, thank you so much for your time. Let me just start with a question. What are you expecting? What are your expectations for the second phase of the ceasefire deal?
Well, as phase one is winding down, obviously the ceasefire remains extremely fragile, and we certainly hope that it's not going to collapse by the time that the first phase is set to end on Saturday. There, of course, is good reason to be concerned about exactly that. As you were just discussing on your program, there is the issue with now Israel claiming that it does not intend to pull its forces out from the Philadelphia corridor. That is going to, it's going to call into question the viability of the ceasefire moving forward. But hopefully the talks in Cairo and the efforts on the part of Egypt and Qatar are going to help keep the ceasefire alive. And hopefully the Trump administration will put the necessary pressure on Israel for the parties to move into phase two. But that is certainly not a guaranteed outcome, unfortunately.
Indeed, and obviously accountability is not Israel's strong suit. Well, the Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid posted on X hours ago that, quote, the army is demonstrating courage and values and investigating itself without any attempt to whitewash or cover up its responsibility. It is time for the failed bunch of cowards called the Israeli government to do the same. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously there are, powerful emotions that different people in Israel are feeling at this time. There are some deep divisions in Israel right now, as we still have hostages being held inside Gaza right now. I think there is a lot of anger toward Netanyahu, not only for the events of October 7th, but also for the handling of the war and for not bringing about some sort of a deal to see the hostages freed earlier on. So that is obviously going to be playing out in Israel internally. And I think we're going to probably be hearing many more of these kinds of statements from different figures within Israel who are critical of how the Netanyahu leadership has been handling this entire situation.
Also a bit problematic, Hamas. We know they've been in charge of Gaza for the past 18 years, but said they'd be willing to give up that authority once Palestinians' interests are served. We have some idea of what Palestinians think. A poll in September by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research said that just 39% of Gaza residents backed Hamas. But what do you think life would be like in Gaza without the group?
Well, it's a good question, and it's an important one to ask right now. I think there are some signs that Hamas would be willing to relinquish its position as the dominant political force in Gaza once this war is resolved, or once the war comes to an end. Through phase two of the ceasefire deal, we could see numerous scenarios potentially playing out, such as sort of a national unity government in which Hamas and Fatah and maybe some other Palestinian factions are sharing power. We could see maybe some sort of interim administration take the helm, maybe led by technocrats. Also, we could consider a possibility of the possible scenario in which the PA returns to Gaza and takes over the different institutions. Again, all of these scenarios would require Hamas to agree to give up its position as the dominant political force in the enclave. Whether that would happen remains to be seen, but there is talk from Hamas officials about that possibly happening if that's what it would take to serve the interests of the Palestinian people. I think obviously we would have to look at the details, and Hamas would obviously only agree to such an arrangement under certain circumstances. But I do think it is possible that we will head in that direction at some point, assuming that the ceasefire deal stays on track and we move into phase two. But there are many ifs there, and none of this is guaranteed.
Indeed, many ifs. Professor Cafiero, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.